Good evening everybody and welcome back to TTTV. This is TTL F1 on a Thursday night and we take you to round number 9 of season 14 to the Japanese Grand Prix and the legendary Suzuka circuit. My name is Kieran McGinley and joining me in the commentary box and the doors just closed is Andy Campbell. Andy, you're back! Guess who's back? Tell a friend, Andy's here. How are you, Andy?
I'm very well. Konnichiwa, everybody. Yes, I have returned after 2 weeks of the absolutely dreaded back shifts at work. Hello Darkness, my old friend, was constantly playing in my head. I have returned though for a heck of a track though. Suzuka is obviously a driver's favourite, and we're getting into a very interesting championship battle as we come in towards the end of the season here in TTL F1. So this should be extremely interesting tonight.
Yeah, Lyronix and Spike. The gap is 10 points between them as we head towards the Japanese Grand Prix. Obviously, Lyronix in the Racing Point, Spike looking to try and get his second Drivers' Championship in TTL history. One of those drivers that's always been around the top of the tables, Andy, but you know, got the one championship to his name, and a bit like Kimi Räikkönen, he should have more than one. However, he's got the one right now. He'll be looking to add to it with 3 races to go.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, one thing you can always be sure of with Spike is consistency. And when I go through Suzuka in a wee moment, because the walking Wikipedia pages came back, I've actually got an interesting stat about Spike around this track as well, which we'll come to in a wee bit. But you know, the championship battle's very close. It could be anybody's between him and Lyronix. And, you know, with 3 races left to go, one mistake could make all the difference. So, you know, it's going to be very interesting. There's always the possibility of rain, especially here in Japan. Just need to remember back a few years when basically that tsunami came along and qualifying ended up being on a Sunday morning a few years back. So, you know, anything can happen here, and well, in F1 it usually does.
Well, Spike, 3 wins. Last time out in Singapore, he finished in 4th. It was actually Jack who won the race at Singapore. Interestingly, with Lyronix, now, it's gone a little bit. I like Lyronix's season so far because it's gone as a pattern. He had 2 wins, round 1 and round 2. Next 2 rounds, Spain and Canada, second. Austria, Germany, 3rd and 3rd. Belgium and Singapore, 2nd and 2nd. That can only mean one thing, Andy. Can only
well, yeah, it's almost like looking at the form on a Grand National runner until it falls at the first fence. But yeah, it's definitely in a sequence there. 2 firsts, 4 seconds, and a 3rd. But that consistency is what gets you championships. It really does put him in a strong position. But of course, Spike's been pretty consistent as well, as we've mentioned there, and he's had a few wins. He's had a number of podiums as well. What's it? I think the gap's about, was it about 10 points? Something like that?
Exactly 10 points.
Yeah. So, you know, it's less than, what, finishing 5th place, basically. So there's plenty up for grabs. And what's going to make this interesting tonight is 19 drivers in the lobby just now. So it looks like we're going to put maybe just shy of a full grid, which is absolutely fantastic to see at this late stage of the season.
Yeah, 3 rounds to go. Of course, we have Japan here tonight. A couple of driver changes. Let me just see if I can find them as we head towards it. Well, one thing's for sure. We welcome back old man Barry. He's back in the Williams, and Saunders here comes up with the Red Bull for the rest of the season. Now, of course, here in TTL, the drivers don't decide the teams. The teams decide who they want as a driver. So it's pretty good pickings for right now for Lyronix. He puts himself in a really good position for a really good drive next season. Where do you think he could be next season, Andy?
Well, you'd think with this kind of form it would most likely be one of the top 3 teams, so a Ferrari, a Mercedes and a Red Bull. But of course, he might be happy maybe staying at Racing Point. Maybe that's his preference. So the joys of this kind of league is obviously unlike in real life, where the performance of the car obviously has a massive effect, and it's why we've not seen any other team other than Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull win since 2014 and beyond. I think the last one was Pastor Maldonado, to be honest, or was it Kimi Räikkönen in 2013? Either way, it's been a long time. This one gives you that possibility because it is obviously equal performance, but as you say, the teams do decide which drivers they take, and when you're up the front, everybody's going to want you. It's like being at the high school prom where you're the pretty boy who's the quarterback for the team, and all the girls want you, and you've got your pick of the fillies, as they say. That just sounded really wrong. I do apologise.
Well, Ironic says he's half Italian. He thinks it's clear where he wants to drive, so it's quite clearly going to be a Red Bull.
Toro Rosso.
Ah, you see, you got the joke and the nationality. Oh, you see, Andy, I am not worthy. I am not worthy. Anyway, before we get underway, we do have the full championship standings so far after 8 rounds. Lyronix leads on 153, Spike in second on 143. It's Jack in third on 75, Warren in fourth on 60 points, Sean in fifth on 54, Draw in sixth on 38, Navy in seventh on 28, Lighty in eighth on 26, The Gort in ninth on 25, and Recon is in 10th with 23. It's Iceman in 11th with 21 points, Maze in 12th on 16 points, Alan Kay in 13th on 13 points, Graham in 14th on 10 points, Grazer in 15th on 8 points, Yuzi in 16th with 6 points, and Hustwick in the Renault 17th with 3 points. So 17 point scoring drivers so far. Obviously we've seen Jack been in and out of this season. He hasn't been a full-time driver this season, and it's why he's down in third place, you know, almost 100 points off the pace. But it's understandable when you miss sort of almost half the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm sure he would have liked to have done a better defence of the championship that he won last season, but of course, sometimes real life does just get in the way. But to still be third position, even if it is 100 points behind, when you think, obviously, as you say, how many races he's missed out on this season, he's still shown great consistency in point scoring to be that far up the table. So it's definitely one to watch out. We'll see if he's going to be able to join us for a full time next season, because that could really make it interesting. Because if you can have everybody come along, I think based on this driver lineup at the moment, if you had Lyronix and Spiked going as they have been, if you have Jack here every week, we've seen Warren showing some fantastic pace since he's came along. There's 4 drivers just there, and that's not including anyone else who then, you know, finds some great time with some good practice. You could end up having a heck of a scrap for the championship and a heck of a scrap for the victories and the podiums every single week. And to be honest, as a fan, whether it be real life, whether it be here in TTL or anything else, that's what you want to see. You want to see the best drivers up the front. You want to see them fighting for the wins and the championships. And we could be in for a heck of a season come next season. Just a quick point before we with the drivers come out, you might have noticed there that D1 has retired from the session. Now, he has got a qualifying ban here tonight due to a previous infraction that he picked up last week in Singapore. So he will be starting from the back of the grid here tonight.
Graham first out onto track then on the soft tyres in the Toro Rosso, and making his way now through this S section. Now, of course, when it comes to controller versus wheel, Andy, the S's here in Japan sort of prove that the wheel can be superior at some tracks.
Yeah, definitely so, although not when I was racing here last night for a moment, because I was about 3.5 seconds off of some of these guys. Mind you, I haven't played in about 2 weeks, but there you go. But it is definitely a track where it is, I would say, more set up towards the wheel. There's some guys who can obviously run the pad at any track and look like they're $1,000,000 while they do it at the same time. So it really is just dependent. But it's definitely a flowing track. The wheel obviously will really help towards that much more than you would do on a pad. And we've got Old Man Barry on his first run back. He's in the wall, that's what the yellow flag is, and he's dropped it. That is coming down the hill towards Spoon, so that's through 200R through what is turn 12 as he heads towards Spoon Corner, and that's his first lap already ruined because he's knocked half that front wing off. So that's not a great return back to form for Barry, and he'll be hoping for better luck on his next lap.
Absolutely, but there is Lyronix making his way through under the bridge here. Of course, the only circuit on the race calendar that is figure of 8, which is a pretty interesting stat.
Yeah, definitely. So there's not many of them in the world either, to be perfectly honest. It's quite a unique configuration. It used to be much faster when the track opened back in the day. You didn't have the final chicane. It was a lot more a swooping run from the sort of hairpin through Spoon Corner, and then it was just flat out from there all the way through 130R and up towards turn number 1. So they have made quite a few changes over the year. As you know though, although we're going to do the quick lap in a moment, just while they're starting to wind up the fast laps, I need to be the Wikipedia page because you know how much I love the history of these places. So 3.6 miles is the track, situated in the Mi Preference in Japan. It's around about 375 kilometres from the capital city of Tokyo. There is 18 turns around this famous track. Obviously you've got the challenge into SE section that Kieran just mentioned, going up behind the pits up the hill, and obviously the infamous 130R, which is obviously flat out these days in comparison to what it used to be in the past. Opened in 1962, it's a track that is owned and still owned even nowadays by Honda, and was used as a test track in the early days by them. It used to host just motorcycle events along with some sports car events, and it didn't host F1 until this F1 returned to Japan in 1987, having done 2 rounds at Fuji in 76 and 77 before being removed after a fatal accident involving Gilles Villeneuve and some spectators, unfortunately, in that 77 race. It's hosted many championship deciders, including the infamous Prost versus Senna rivalry that we've seen in 89 and 1990, where both competitors collided in both years, and it's seen many great races, including Kimi Raikkonen passing Giancarlo Fisichella in 2005 after coming from, I think it was P17 on the grid, to win the race in the final lap. We've seen other events here from WTCR, Super GT and Super Formula, and even just last week they hosted the 10 Hours of Suzuka here in the GT3 category. Now that little bit of information about Spike I mentioned earlier, well, last season Recon was the winner, as Graham's just stuffed it going up the hill through Dunlop, but in the last 3 seasons Spike's improved every time he's came here. Season 11 P6, Season 12 P4, Season 13 P3, so he's improving every time. Can he get himself onto the top step of the podium here tonight, and what would be an absolutely ideal point to do it considering the championship?
Spike using all of his available ERS energy and backs off right on the start finish line. He does not want to start on those set of tyres. 129.3. In the meantime though, his teammate Jack is on top right now, 128.6 there, with Troy in second, Recon in third. If you just saw that though, about a couple of minutes ago, Lighty got tangled up with Yuzi just before the Casio triangle. You saw Yuzi's car there stricken without a front right tyre. Well, the McLaren of Lighty has actually picked up a 5-second grid penalty for the race, so we have to take that into account when we come to the final standings. Now, whether Yuzi's got a penalty, I highly doubt it, because Yuzi was the one who retired. However, the stewards have pulled a card up their sleeve many a time, so we shouldn't take it for granted. We shouldn't be so presumptuous. We'll have to check on the race director very shortly. What I will say though is that multiple drivers in the chat are saying that towards the end of this race there is rain on the forecast, and it looks like it's going to be rain that's going to force those inters and maybe wets to hand.
That could be very interesting indeed, especially if that's the weather forecast for the actual race itself. Dry start into a wet finish. It's really going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons, as they say, later on into this race. Finding that cut-off point, if that is the case, it's going to be the tricky situation round here. Usually didn't pick up any penalty. It was just Lighty getting the 5th place grid penalty. Now, depending on where he finishes, if he was to finish where he is now, there's a certain Red Bull driver that's on a qualifying ban that would be pretty happy with that, because I get the feeling Lighty would be put behind him because he's not set a lap time. So Lighty will probably want to get out there and try and get a lap time in, just to get himself maybe up towards the top, the upper reaches, the beginning reaches of the top 10, sorry, just so that he's not starting behind that Red Bull. But yeah, rain would really make it interesting, and it's certainly something that we do see quite often here at Suzuka. Yellow flag in Sector 3 and Sector 1. It seems to have disappeared now. Not too sure who that might be. It's disappeared now, so whoever it was has managed to get back underway. We've got 10.5 minutes to go roughly. 12 drivers have set a lap time, although Sam Saunders' lap time is 33 seconds off the pace, so definitely not representative here. Current pole position, a 128.6 from Jack, 1 time clear of T-Raw. Recon, last season's winner, in 3rd, and Spike in 4th for his championship rival Lyronix in 5th. But look at Lyronix, he is running the hard compound tyre at the moment with his best lap time, 1.3 seconds down on the hard compound. That's not a bad lap time there from the Racing Point driver.
Here comes Alan Kay towards the line. 131.6 puts him now into the top 10 on those medium tyres. Power slided through the hairpin there. He didn't care, because he's got himself a quicker lap time, and like I said, back into the top 10. We've got Crazy Legs there, who's making his way towards 130R, and Well, Andy, I know you've been itching to do this. I know you've been itching for a long, long time. We're riding on board with Jack now as he makes his way towards the Casio Triangle. Let's see if he's going to actually set a lap time. And Andy, do what it is you do so well.
Yes, here we go, 3.6 miles, 18 turns in front of us, it is Suzuka, and the only track in the calendar apart from Monaco that's only got one DRS zone. We're in it right now, down the front straight, up to 200 miles an hour, up towards turn 1, throw it in, still at 200 on the apex, jam on the brakes, down to around about 105 for turn 2. Now we're rising up the hill through turns 3, turn 4 of the S's, Jack dropping it down to 4th gear there, just to get the car to turn in, through turn 5, and then turn 6, you've just got to wait before you get in the power here, bring it to the right, back to the left up the hill through Dunlop, a little bit wide there and a big moment from Jack. He's off the track, he's avoided the barrier, and we're going to need to find someone else to finish the lap off, I think, because I don't think he's going to carry on, but we'll soon see. I'm still on board with him just now, we'll see if he carries on. Probably not at full speed though, so yeah, he's going on. So he's not made any damage to the car. So through Degner, that's usually very, very quick, the first part of Degner. Tricky into Degner too, it cambers to the inside, it can really catch you out locking the brakes. Through the curve of turn 9, which makes the tricky braking zone for turn 10 hairpin. Sorry, turn 11 hairpin, turn 9 and 10 is the curve. And because you've got that curve there, it makes it very, very tricky to get your brakes right sometime, in my opinion. Down through 200R towards Spoon Curve, turn 13 is the first part. You're taking this at about 5th gear, 120 plus miles an hour, down a gear to 4th gear, quickly down to 3rd for Jack, and back up to 4th. Use the runoff area on the exit Spoon, up towards the top of the hill, back to the crossover section now. 130R, infamous corner. He's not going at full throttle here, he's just slowing back up a little bit. And then up to the Casio Triangle, you usually look for about 75 metres or so for your braking point. Clip the inside curve, clip the outside curve there in the left hand side, back to pit lane. Now that bump there just before pit lane, that is a fun one to keep an eye on, because I've seen many a driver spin there, but then you'd come back down across the line, DRS open, and that would be a lap of Suzuka. Recon has just put himself into pole position at 27.8, so he's deciding, I'm going to go and start on these soft compound tyres, and that is a bit of a lap time, that one.
Yeah, the strategy will come into play with about 7.5 minutes to go. Obviously, the drivers will be looking, because the majority of the race is probably going to be dry, they're going to be running dry setups here in qualifying. If the rain does come and they go onto a set of intermediate tyres, well then they don't have to use those two different sets of dry compound tyre. They can just use the one if they want to risk and see if they can make it on the intermediates at the end of this race. That's entirely up to them though.
Yeah, definitely so, and especially if there's rain coming, maybe Recon, for example, there's decided, you know what, I'm going to try and sprint away in the opening stages, get the lap times and try and build the gap up as much as I can. But at the same time, if it's not due to come until the end of the race, you're going to see a lot of people, and that's probably why we're seeing the likes of Lyronics. Sean's been out there in the hard compound tyres, along with Old Man Barry and Housewick as well. Maybe looking to run longer into the race if there is the possibility of maybe some rain into the race. And the strategy will really, really play a difference, especially if the heavens do decide to open before the end of proceedings. We've still got 6.5 minutes to go here in qualifying. We're still waiting on lap times from Maze and Lighty. Maze is out on track at the moment. Lighty's still in pit lane, and with that 5th place grid penalty, it's going to mean he's starting behind D Warren at the moment with that. So yeah, maybe the Red Bull driver will be quite chuffed at that, you never know.
Spike there coming through the Casio Triangle, looked like he invalidated his lap time and then just got stuck in no man's land there. He didn't really know whether to come into the pit lane or stay out for another lap. He stayed out, but it's compromised his next lap as well, and so I think that's a job done from Spike on those medium tyres, not setting a clean lap, so he'll be coming back to the pit lane on the next lap. Here is Lyronics though, making his way towards Spoon Curve of turn 13 and 14. Careful not to run too wide on the exit of 13 there to try and maximise the entry into turn 14. He might get a little bit of a toe here on towards 130R. Now this is of course where Fernando Alonso made his move around the outside of Michael Schumacher in a daring move. Lyronics here flat out in these cars as we make our way now towards that Casio Triangle. Lyronics here hitting those curves very nicely indeed. Now what can he do on this flying lap, making his way now down the hill and towards the start finish line. It's 4th on those medium tyres, 128.8. Now just to put that into context, that is 100th of a second faster than Saunders, who set his lap time on the soft tyres.
Yeah, it's a cracking lap time there, showing the championship potential from the German driver, medium compound, and doing an awfully good job there as well. Noticing as well as others may have done also, Lyronics running the number 19 tonight along with a black helmet in tribute to Antoine Hubert, who of course, as everybody knows, was unfortunately killed in an F2 accident at Spa at the weekend. Horrible accident. We have condolences of course to his family and friends. We also wish a speedy recovery and all our best wishes to Carrera as well, who was the driver that crashed into Hubert's car, and he's currently in hospital with some major leg injuries, but he is okay away from that, and we wish him the best recovery as well. But there's a few drivers out there with their own tributes. A few drivers have done it, and it's times like this where it's a shame that obviously we don't want to see anything like this, but this is the times where the sim racing and motorsport communities come together, and the majority of people show just how much a family it really is when something terrible like this happens. And we hope that it doesn't ever happen, but it's a dangerous sport that we enjoy, and sometimes these things happen.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Hustwick then making his way in towards Spoon Corner and turn 14. Got to be careful about that little curve on the exit there. Very easy to take too much of it, and before you know it, you're into the gravel. Now Hustwick building up the revs and building up through the gears in towards 130R. Once again, flat out through here. Remember the times about 6 years ago where they tried to run DRS through 130R. They quickly withdrew that though for obvious reasons. Hustwick making his way through the Casio Triangle and now down the hill. Watch out for that bump there. Can really unsettle the car. And Hustwick making his way towards the line. It's 9th place for him. 129.8 from the Renault driver.
Not too bad a lap time. Soft tyres though for that, so that's going to be at the moment mean he has to start on them. Mays has decided to retire from the session, and the yellow flag in sector 3, so I don't know if he's retired out on track due to an accident or in pit lane, but he's just in the cusp of the top 10 just now. So we need to see how that one lines up for the Ferrari driver. His teammate Sean's 7th at the moment on the medium compound tyre for his best lap, which is a pretty decent effort there from him. But yeah, with 2.5 minutes to go, Recon's looking pretty. I mean, that's 3/4 of a second that he's ahead of everyone just now. And he's mentioned in the chat that Sector 1, so up through the S's, up Tunlop towards Degner, is a bit messy. It just makes you wonder, what kind of lap time could he have done if that wasn't messy? A low 127 maybe? Who knows?
Definitely a mid 127, that's for sure. Here is Saunders though in the Red Bull, now making his way up the hill and through turn 7. Watch out for that curve on the outside. That really will catch your rear tyre and send you for a spin. Making his way through now the Degner curves of turns 8 and turn 9, under the bridge and then in towards turn 10 and the hairpin of turn 11. Braking hard here, Kamui Kobayashi made a move or two up the inside of this corner. No such thing for qualifying right now, but as Saunders now building up through the gears and now flying through this right hander of turn 12 on towards Spoon Curve. Of course, as Andy said, it is really a driver favourite. Not many drivers don't like coming here, that's for sure. Down the hill now, as Saunders now builds up through the revs once again on these soft tyres. Now let's see what his sector 2 time is. Sector 2 time is coming up around about now, 2/10 slower than his best. So we'll have to see if he backs out of this lap, if he tries again. He's not got long to do it, making his way now down towards the Casio Triangle. He's trying to attack those curves as much as possible. There's Hustwick, who's out of fuel, coming back into the pit lane. Saunders then making his way towards the line. Is it a better lap time? No, 2/10 slower. He doesn't improve, but it looks like he's still going to go for another attempt.
Yeah, not quite able to improve there, but he's still got a chance. Hopefully there's enough battery there in the car for him to be able to do one more lap. We're into the final minute now, and Lyronics has stayed in pit lane, so he's going to be no better than 4th in this session, and it will be starting on the medium tyres if he stays in the top 10 as well. I'm keeping an eye just now on Spike, who's currently up at Spoon Corner. Yellow flag in Sector 1 and Sector 3. We'll check that out very shortly indeed. They seem to be disappearing pretty quickly, but Spike's just heading up towards 130. He's actually on his out lap at the moment. I thought he was on his quick one there, but I'm getting mixed up between the two Mercs. It's Jack that's on the quick lap at the moment, and he is currently at the hairpin of turn 11. So the checkered flag is about to fall. 5 seconds on the clock. 7/10 is still the gap for Recon in pole position at the moment. There's the checkered flag. So, as you can see, checkered flags up against... Oh, but yeah, a car off there. Who was that? T-Rod's off to the side of the road, out of fuel. There was a car there. I was watching Recon going up Dunlop. I think it's the other McLaren. It is indeed, it's Lighty on the grass. So he's not going to be setting a better lap time. And that means he is going to be starting last with that 5-place grid penalty he's got. So that'll help D. Warren from 19th to 18th, where he's banned from qualifying. Red Bull come down Saunders, he's got no front wing as Jack's just put it on pole position there by 3/100ths of a second, a 127.8. Who's next to come across the line? Just trying to work my way through. T-Rod's retired. I'm keeping an eye on Recon just now then. He's heading for 130R just now. Coming to the end of Sector 2. Is he up? He's up by 1/100th of a second. 17/1000ths up. This is going to be very close as he comes into the final couple of corners. Into the chicane. Clipping the curbs nicely. Down the hill he goes. Yellow flag up ahead, but he won't need to worry about that. Pulls to the inside. Crazy Legs is right there. He improves on his time, but he's still 2/100ths down, so no improvement there from Recon. Here comes Spike. Here's the other one we want to keep an eye on now. He's into the final chicane. Can he do anything? Can he get ahead of Ironics, his championship rival? Coming through the final corner now, up towards the line, and it's third, so he does jump Ironics, but not enough for pole position. And I don't think there's anyone except for Charlie, I think, that's on a lap just now. Alan Kay on a lap as well.
He's come back into pit, so it is just Charlie now who is out there on a flying lap.
He's pitting, he's on a 153, so he's pitting.
Well then, so all the cars now back into the pit lane. Qualifying is over, and Jack puts it on pole position for Mercedes there. Recon then in second for Haas. Spike in third, importantly on the soft tyre. Troll, race winner last season out here in Japan. Fourth place, Lyronix. Fifth place on the medium tyre. Spike in the chat saying there was so much traffic. Well, for Recon it was slightly worse as well, as he had Crazy Legs right on the right hand side with a front right tyre off, so that was a bit off-putting, but still 27.851 from him is very, very respectable. Watch out then for Lyronix on those medium tyres, who will be a threat to Spike, especially if the rain comes late on during this race. It is Saunders there in 6th, the Gort in 7th, Sean in 8th, Hustwick in 9th, making his way into the top 10, and Mays just about making the cut. One lap only. Make himself into the top 10. Charlie in 11th, Crazy Legs 12th, Old Man Barry in 13th. We'll go through the rest of the standings very, very shortly, but it is Jack on pole position for Mercedes and looking to make it another win in this season and trying to announce himself for season 15. He knows he's out of this one, but he'll be here for next one, I'm sure he will. So it is Jack on pole position, Recon in 2nd, Spike 3rd, Troll 4th, Lyronix in 5th, Saunders in 6th, the Gort in 7th, Sean in 8th, Hustwick in 9th, and Mays rounding out the top 10. It's Charlie in 11th, Crazy Legs 12th, Old Man Barry in 13th, Graham 14th, Alan K 15th, George 16th, Lighty in 17th, although he will get that 5-place grid penalty, which means he starts in 19th. Yuzi and Warren both in 18th and 19th. Of course, Warren had that qualifying ban and Yuzi retired early on, but they will both start ahead of Lighty in P17 and 18.
Yeah, and what's going to be interesting is for those outside the top 10, what tyres are they going to pick? Now, I'd be very surprised to see anybody go for the soft compound tyre, although no doubt there's probably someone in the chat just waiting there to pick up on that and go for it. But the most likely strategy you're going to see is going to be medium to hard or hard to medium, maybe hard to soft. Those in the top 10, apart from Lyronix, are going to be looking at the soft to the hard compound tyre. Lyronix has a wee bit more choice depending on how far he feels he can run those medium tyres. But again, it's probably going to go for the safer option, which would be the medium onto the hard compound. But we've got plenty of action ahead of us. It's much more brighter here just now, so maybe that threat of rain is disappearing out over the sea, and you can see the Ferris. I can certainly see the Ferris wheel in the right hand corner spinning away. There's so much on this track, by the way. I didn't even realise till I had a look today. We've got the fun fair, which we know with the Ferris wheel. There's a hotel, there's a driving school, you name it, this place has got it. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely, but before we get started, as Andy mentioned, we will have a lap of honour in silence for Antoine Hubert on this formation lap, and I hope you'll join us. Repose en paix, Antoine. We're here now for the Japanese Grand Prix here in TTL F1, and we wait now for the 5 red lights to start counting up. It is 5 red lights here in Suzuka, and round 9 is underway, and what a start's like. It's a great start from Jack then as they make their way down towards turn 1. Spike there has an even better start, trying to make his way through the pack here. Is on the outside for turn 1 and will be on the outside for turn 2. Recon there got away with that one. There's a bit of drama happening there in the background. That was Sean running a bit wide out of turn 2. Actually, I think it was Maze, but Yuzi's trying to make his way up the field now. He's up to 14th place. Saunders there in 7th as well. As we look at Lyronics, he's in 5th place now. Remember, on those medium tyres as they make their way now up the hill through that left-hander. And Shaw there has got a really, really good exit. Spike struggling there on the way towards the first Degner and then towards the second Degner. He's already 1.1 behind Recon so far. What's going on with Spike then as they make their way up towards turn 10 and through the hairpin of turn 11 for the very first time? Jack's still leading. I was just going to say, Troll left his braking late. Had to take a little bit of evasive action to avoid running into the back of Spike there. Old man Barry side by side with Graham as they make their way now through that long right-hander of turn 12. And Barry gets the move done. He's now up to 12th place in the Williams, making his return for the final 3 races of the season. Lyronic still putting that pressure on the 2 cars ahead, but Troll here is looking like he's got the pace. Spike maybe just taking a couple of laps to warm up those tyres. In any case, we've got to be watching out for Recon as well, who's only 3/10 behind as we make our way now towards the Casio Triangle for the very first time. And Recon really trying to put that pressure on. Through we go then, through the penultimate corner, then the last corner of turn 18 and down the hill. Look at this run that Jack has as we now head through on towards the first corner. We'll come to that in a second as Recon, this could be a move for the lead then, trying to go round the outside at turn 1. Couldn't quite make it stick. Jack then runs a little bit wide through turn 2 and Recon could try it up the inside. Virtual safety car deployed, and Andy, take us through what happened.
Well, unfortunately, I only caught the end of it, but it involved both Alfa Romeos and Lighty. Charlie's started on the soft compound tyres from 11th place, which was surprising, and he's had the terrible start. It was through 130R. Just caught the end of it, but there were 2 of them at the side on the outside of 130R, and the McLaren was on the inside on the grass. The virtual safety car has came back in. D Warren's been into pits as well, so he's already made a pit stop too, so he maybe got caught up in amongst it as well. So 4 drivers have already had to make a pit stop. D Warren, Alan Kay, Lighty and Charlie, and it's worse for Charlie because he had to get held and wait until Alan Kay had been serviced. So horrible start for Alfa Romeo here tonight. Unfortunately, just caught the end of it, I'm afraid. Not too sure how it came about, but at least 3 of those drivers, if not 4 of them, have had a bit of a coming together.
Well, I did deploy the virtual safety car. We still have all 19 cars running, which is good, as we now head down with Recon, who's still trying to chase down Jack, who is our race leader. Spike's fallen away from the top 2 at the moment, 2 seconds behind at this moment in time. Jack getting a little bit onto the grass in towards 130R. That's going to compromise that speed and how much speed he can carry through in towards the Casio Triangle. Sean, meanwhile, has got a move done on Saunders through 130R. Great move there from the Ferrari.
Bing, bing, dong, that was amazing. I just picked that up at the end there. That's what I was going at, because up the inside got a great run out of Spoon and just stuck it up the inside, kept the foot in it, and a brilliant move. Meanwhile, the championship leader's having a fight with the McLaren, the T-Raw, into turn number 1, but no dice there for the German up against the McLaren. But lovely move from Sean. Fair play from Saunders as well, because he gave him the space, ran a bit wide just to make sure there was no contact, making sure that both of them will live to fight another day. But yeah, brilliant move from Sean. Wasn't quite expecting that so early in the race.
Well, I think Sean was helped as well, because Saunders has a bit of front wing damage to the left-hand side of his front wing, and that's pretty crucial going through 130R and now through the Degner, so he's going to struggle for the rest of his stint. He's probably thinking it's not worth pitting in now to try and get that front wing changed. Meanwhile, Hustwick has got away past Crazy Legs there. We have yellow flags in Sector 1.
George Dunlop, he's spun it up the hill and he's underway again. He's damaged his wing. Just caught the end of that again with the yellow flags, but he's at Dunlop, facing the wrong way in the opposite side of the road, so he's obviously spun it coming up the hill, catching the grass.
Warren now up to 15th in that incident, so he's looking to try and recover now after a start that has got our heads scratching, Andy. Not sure what happened, but what we do know happened is that at least 3 cars were involved, and it triggered the virtual safety car. Recon still trying to chase down Jack right ahead of them. Now I wonder if there is a virtual safety car, if there's another one. Obviously it's going to make the race a little bit longer. Of course that's going to play into the hands of those who want the rain to come later on in this race. Recon then moving to the right hand side as we make our way down the start finish straight, and Recon in the Haas with the DRS this time gets the move done down towards turn 1, and Jack there through all his defending on the last lap couldn't quite defend against the Haas with the DRS, so Recon now leads the Japanese Grand Prix with Jack in second, Spike in third at the moment. And I think Spike's having one of those drives where he's just driving to a delta, but that delta means that he's falling away from the lead 2 cars.
Yeah, definitely. He's 2.5 seconds behind. The only good part for him at the moment is he is also nearly 2 seconds clear of T-Raw, who's still holding up Ironics there in 5th position. George has finally made his way back to pit lane and gets a 5-second penalty for speeding, just for his troubles as well. But Recon, great move, great run out of the Casio Triangle chicane down to turn 1. First time DRS has been enabled, and he's absolutely nailed it in the process. The only other driver that made a move under DRS was Yuzi on his teammate Graham down into turn 1. Exact same process, much better run out the corner, and just passed well before turn number 1. But I mean, Spike's got enough of a gap, but he doesn't want to fall too far away from those at the front if he wants to have a chance of maybe winning this race. But maybe he feels later on he can come back into it, especially maybe if this rain is due to come. Nice bright sunshine at the moment, though, so, you know, dark skies are pretty far away just now. But this is Japan. It might not be Mount Fuji at the Fuji Speedway, but it just rolls over the hill and just happens like nothing else. But it's still always possible. We're only on lap 5 of 27. Long way to go yet.
Here is Sean riding on board with him 6/10 behind the gore. Meanwhile, Ronix is still trying to close in on Troy up ahead of him as they now head through turn 2. Let's see what Sean can do. Running in that Ferrari there. Ferrari have had a little bit of a tepid season, it's fair to say. So Sean, who's been consistently in the points, and Mays has struggled this season. However, he's managed to get the car home on a number of occasions where it was doom and gloom, but then managed to recover some points. And I think that's what Ferrari appreciate, that fighting spirit and not giving up when the going gets tough.
Yeah, definitely so, and I've said it many times on streams before, especially when we've had weeks where there's maybe been smaller numbers. You want to keep going, because if you finish and you end up with only 10 finishers, that's a guaranteed point, you know, and that's really obviously helped to keep Ferrari get points ticking over, is having, you know, Mays doing that each week here. Sean's been able to pick up a few good results. I remember him having a pretty decent race at Catalonia in Spain early doors in the season, although he was a wee bit in no man's land during that race, and he's done that a few times where he's managed to just get himself a wee pocket of air where he's just not quite able to keep up with the cars ahead, but he's too quick for the cars behind. And Mays has certainly been improving as time has gone by as well. He's starting to pick up more and more pace as it goes along, and who knows, we might see him becoming much more of a top 10 contender moving into next season as well. Same goes for all these drivers. I mean, we've mentioned obviously like Alan Kay, who's been learning to do no assists in the league, you know, doing it in a very public arena rather than doing it in practice, just going the full way with it. And you know, the more these drivers are pushing that kind of thing, the better they're going to get. And I do know that Mays was actually trying no assists the other night in a practice lobby, so maybe he's looking towards that way moving forward as well. But it's a tricky thing to do, as we've discussed before, and some of these drivers just make it look oh so easy, it sickens me.
Yeah, don't they just? It's just really annoying when they can, you know, be quick. Don't we know that, Andy? I mean, I proved it in the off season when I was invited to come along to an F2 thing. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to do it for fun. And yeah.
Hey, you got a podium.
Well, I don't know how. I still don't know how.
Does it matter?
I suppose it doesn't. Lap 6:10 here.
You finished, there you go.
Lap 6 in Japan, Recon leads from Jack and Spike. You're watching the battle between Hustwick and Saunders here as they make their way through the hairpin. Hustwick has got the pace here and moved from the Williams. The Renault signed him up, and we're heading now through turn 12 on towards the Spoon corner now. Saunders just about to stay ahead at this moment in time. You can see Hustwick here looking to try and use that ERS as much as possible. Look how close he gets to the gearbox of that Red Bull ahead of him this time. He'll have the slipstream down towards 130R, no DRS, but look at how much he's closing up to Saunders here, but he backs out of it. He backs out of any potential move there. You heard him lift off, but now he might try and move down in towards the Casio triangle, but again, nothing doing there. Maybe just had a sensible head on his shoulders there, Andy, as he makes his way now down towards the final corner, and Saunders comes into the pits anyway. Lyronix, meanwhile, putting the pressure on True up ahead. Yellow flag in sector 1. That yellow flag is cleared, but yeah, Hustwick not making a move down to the 130R, and probably that was a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, unlike when we seen the one earlier from Sean, he was fully alongside in a track position. It's not the kind of corner where you're going in at around about 180 plus miles an hour that you want to be in a 50-50 situation, let's put it that way. It's the worst thing you want to do in that kind of corner. But Saunders coming into the pits, he'll be glad at that. He can get rid of that front wing that had been damaged in the early stages, and he can get onto some fresh tyres and try and push forward. I've been keeping an eye on the two Toro Rossos, Yuzi and Graham. They're having their own little scrap, which has been quite fun to watch for the last couple of laps, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. They're down in 12th and 13th at the moment. They are in the medium compound tyres, so don't expect to see them in the pits till anywhere around about lap 12 onwards. Graham just got it all wrong out of Degner too, nearly took Yuzi with him there. Good avoiding action there from the second Toro Rosso in the number 24 machine, but they're having their own little private scrap. They're about 7-8 seconds off of Mays up ahead, and D Warden behind in the Red Bull. So still got 6 seconds before he can catch up, but remember, that Red Bull has been into the pits already, but I do think he will need to make one more stop. So I'm sure he started on the medium compound tyres and he's still on them just now. But we're on to lap 8. Jack's nearly out of DRS range. He's going to need to be careful. George is just coming out of pit lane in front of the leaders there. He's managed to avoid any hassles there. Spike in third is 4 seconds behind now, so he's really dropping behind at the moment. T-Raw and Lyronix are just slowly catching up to the back of that Mercedes, but not quick enough. Still 1.8 seconds between them. They've got a nice wee gap of 3.8 seconds to the Gort. He's got 1.5 to Sean, who's got nearly 5 seconds to that battle between Housewick and Crazy Legs. So Old Man Barry rounding out the top 10.
Crazy Legs did try a move down the inside at turn 1, but had to back out of it. Yuzi, though, meanwhile, going up the inside of Graham here, getting onto the grass. As you say, Andy, these two Toro Rossos, they touch! They touch there through turn 2, and it's put Graham off there. He's run wide. Just on
Speaking
the
of offs, T-Raw's off as well at Degner's. He's lost what was fourth place. I just caught the end of his. He's got wing damage up at Degner. So action going on all over the place, but that one, no offence to the Toro Rosso boys, has a little bit more effect on the race because it's for 4th position, and it's now released the championship leader into 4th position, and he's now got gap between him and the car ahead and the car behind, so he's got clean air to work with. But the Toro Rosso's doing the old thing you're not supposed to do: don't hit your teammate.
Yeah, and it just unsettled the car. He ran wide, and I don't think there was any damage to the back of or the front of that Toro Rosso. However, just because things look like they're not damaged doesn't mean they aren't. Crazy Legs then making his way through 130R, trying to chase down Hustwick. Lyronix is into the pits. Now that I was expecting it to go a bit longer. Is there damage to that front wing, I wonder? Let's see what the Racing Point crew do then. It is a front wing damage there. So crucial there for Lyronix. That's not what the Racing Point crew needed. That's not what he needed either, when the soft tyre runners are now running longer than his medium stint. So that's going to be slight music to Spike's ears, but not too much. He'll be pretty much focused on his own stint and his own delta.
So that makes me wonder then if the situation between T-Raw going off that cost him damage, I wonder if there's contact then between the two. As I say, I picked it up at the end after I seen the yellow flags, because I was watching the Toro Rosso battle as well, that you guys were. And I wonder then if that means contact between the two of them, and Lyronix has decided to head for pit lane. I didn't notice damage on the car. Everything looked okay, but it must have been causing enough of an understeer for him to have to pit in, considering he was on the medium compound tyres. He's rejoined down in 11th position. It's a long way to go to take those hard compound tyres. You're going to have to do, what, 21, 22 laps on them, so it puts him in a bit of a tricky position now. He's got a fresh set of tyres to go at it, right behind Yuzi already, up into the hairpin. The Toro Rosso running wide, and, well, that's a gift. You might as well put that in a Christmas bowl, for crying out loud. That was too easy.
Jack's into the pits then from second place. So in he comes for his pit stop then. The Mercedes crew get the medium tyres ready. On they go. No front wing change for him, and away he goes. So where will he rejoin? Well, the Gort is about 12 seconds back, but there he comes now towards that start-finish straight. We've got Sean there making his way through. Maybe Crazy Legs as well. will get the move done. Jack's just making his way towards that pit lane exit. Yellow flags in sector 3. There goes Crazy Legs there. Looks like Hustwick. Is that Hustwick behind? It is. They're going to be challenging down towards turn 1, but Hustwick backs out of it. So Jack then rejoins in 6th place. Warren, meanwhile, in 12th place right now, is right on the back of Yuzi. In that slipstream he goes with that DRS wide open. Warren here. Well, look at that. Look at that. How much speed difference there was. I think Yuzi just handed that one to him on a silver platter with the sister car right behind. Warren then up to 11th place and Yuzi down to 12th. And Warren's recovery drive continues on. He's currently in 11th place, so not bad at all so far. But with those medium tyres, I'm expecting him to pit in before the rain comes once again.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, he pitted at the end of lap number 1. He might have been caught up in that incident that I missed out on between the two Alphas and Lighty. And I'm sure he started on a set of medium compound tyres as well, so if that is the case, he will need to pit again regardless of rain or not. But even if he doesn't, that's a long way to take a set of medium tyres. He's already done 8 laps. We've still got, another 17 to go. Race leader Recon is now into pit lane as Jax just flew by on Crazy Legs up towards 130R. The yellow flag in sector 2 somewhere. Trying to see if I can pick up what happened there and who it was, but can't see anyone at the moment. But yes, Recon's into the pits, as is the Gordon Sean, so pit stop's underway. D Warren's out. Warren's out. He's crashed coming out of Spoon. That's what the yellow flag is. He's on the left-hand side just after the second part of Spoon Corner. George is off the track as well, but that's at the earlier part of 4 turn 1. And after that recovery drive, we were just talking about him. He's probably, what I'd expect he's done is he's caught the exit curve out of the second part of the Spoon curve, dropped it, they're lighting the tyres up, it's pitched him across the track into the wall, one wheel off your wagon. Reliant Robbins don't work round here, and he's out the race, and that recovery drive goes to absolutely nothing.
Yeah, such a shame for Warren. He was doing well to carve his way through the field, but it is race over for him, as is race over for George in the Williams. He has now retired from the race. The yellow flag's in sector 2, so it must be somewhere around there. And Crazy Legs is out as well. Virtual safety car now deployed. But Crazy Legs is now the latest person to retire from the race. It's from the Degners. Is it Degner 2, I wonder?
Degner 2 yes, it is. He's ran wide, yep. He's ran wide there into the wall. That reminds me of Lewis Hamilton. I believe it was 2009. Just got off the side and just straight into the wall. So another virtual safety car. George was having no offence to George, because I know he can drive well, but he was having a horrible race. He spun many times here tonight, and he was just decided to call it quits. So 3 retirements in the space of goodness knows how many seconds there. But I'll tell you what, I'm watching the Gort and Lyronics, and Lyronics has actually gained time during that virtual safety car period, because he was right on the cusp of that delta, I'm sure, while the Gort was dawdling about. So he's gained himself about half a second there as the racing point. But we're back underway again, and we're down now to 16 drivers. Here comes Lyronics out at 130R. He's looking to the outside into the chicane, but Gort has the line as the other Renault comes into pit lane. Liam Housewick, he is pitting now, but all going off. Spike's in the lead now. He's got 12 seconds. Recon did come out just ahead of Jack, and Spike's going long into this race, hoping to maybe go into a set of mediums later on, I wonder.
And Lyronics down the inside of the Gort then. He knew he had to make that move stick, because that is for position. They're both now trying to make it this stint work. Lyronics knew it was now or never, and he chose now, and moves now up into 5th place. Old man Barry will be his next target. He is at the moment 7 seconds up the road, but of course Barry still has to pit in this race so far, because he has started on those medium tyres. Meanwhile, Hustwick there trying to put Yuzi under a bit of pressure now as we head through Dunlop. Yuzi got a little bit of understeer. Hustwick sees a chance through the fast left-hander and on towards the Degners, catching a little bit of the grass there, but decides to just back out of that one. Not worth it, says Hustwick right now. But look at that battery. It's a full battery now from Hustwick, and he now gets to turn that up to high as he now makes his way in towards the hairpin. Now, for the rest of the lap, he's going to be on attack mode all this time. And let's have a look at Yuzi. He's got the same. And Spike coming into the pit lane, 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is a disaster, because Lyronics now had that front wing change. Spike now has a 5-second stop-go penalty that he'll have to serve at his next pit stop if he does pit again. But yeah, both championship contenders right now making mistakes, and that's going to be crucial. Here's Hustwick then, trying to still trace down Yuzi through 130R. Yuzi gets a little bit of understeer. He leaves the door open on the left-hand side. Hustwick's going to have to go round the outside, which he does on entry into the Casio triangle, and the Renault driver moves up to 8th place. Great move, great stuff out there from him. He judged that to perfection there, and he gets his way past Yuzi. Great move.
Yeah, but speaking of the Toro Rosso, he's got the DRS coming back into turn number 1, but doesn't have the pace to get by into the turn, so the Renault's going to disappear off, I'd imagine, now, because he's got a fresh set of tyres on there. Spike, yeah, not ideal for him, having a 5-second penalty, might come back to haunt him later on. At the moment, he's come back out in 3rd position. He has got 3.6 seconds to old man Barry, who's still to pit, so it's about 6.5 to 7 seconds between him and Lyronic, so it's technically a 2-second gap depending on any other penalties, which, I'm going to be honest, I've not been able to keep up with. I'll have a look later on when I've got half a minute. But plenty going on, but Recon's pulling away now. He was, Jack was pretty close. He was in DRS range. It's now 1.8 seconds the gap between the two of them. Could Recon go back to back? He won here last year. Could he make it 2 out of 2?
We'll have to wait and see, but here is Saunders right on the back of Yuzi here, as Yuzi tries to defend the inside line going into Spoon. Not an ideal line. But he clips a little bit of the grass, runs a little bit wide. That's going to compromise his entry for 14. He runs a little bit wide. Saunders there tries to pick his moment now, and he'll be in the slipstream. He'll have a much better exit than Yuzi. And look at this now. Saunders not sure where he's going to go. He's going to go to the right-hand side. He's having to go round the outside of 130. Oh, clipping the grass all the time there, off the track. But there really was nowhere else for him to go. But Saunders puts the bravery up to 10 and gets that move for P9. That's a great move there as Yuzi now comes into the pits. Saunders there onto the grass multiple times during that move. He didn't care though, and he moves up to 8th place.
Alonso, as you were mentioning earlier on, yellow flag there is for Graham. He's off coming up through the Dunlop curves there. But yeah, lovely move around the outside. Did have to use a wee bit of the run-off curb in the AstroTurf area there, but going at that kind of speed, you can compensate for that for sure. You'd rather live to fight another day than have a massive accident there. I still remember McNish having an accident there in 2002. That was a belter because he went basically right through the barrier. Nearest battle on track at the moment then is down for the final point just now between T-Raw and Mays, 10th and 11th. Not long been into the pits. Mays is on 3 lap old tyres, but he's on the mediums. T-Raw on hard tyres that have been on for 5 laps, so relatively similar life in them, but T-Raws will last longer. Mays will have more grip at the moment, needs to try and take advantage of that in the Ferrari so that he can try and move up into the points, and as we were saying earlier, he keeps those points ticking over. Ferrari will definitely be happy at getting more on the board. The other driver, Sean, is up in 6th at the moment, 2 seconds behind the Gort. It looks like he's actually slowly closing up on that gap as well at the moment, but 2.3 seconds a gap for the lead now. We're at halfway distance, we're over halfway distance now actually, and Recon 2.5 seconds clear from a gap that when the pit stops had finished was only half a second, so he's had a good start to this stint.
Absolutely, just more on that Traw and Mays battle. Traw did make a move on that previous lap with the DRS down that long straight then towards turn 1, and it was Mays just sort of let him have the move there, and Traw now finds himself up to 10th place and trying to build on that gap now to Mays behind. There is your race leader though, making his way through the hairpin. Recon leads then, Jack is in 2nd, Spike in 3rd, 11 seconds behind right now. Lyronic's in 4th, and that's Sean off there, and the Gort as well is into the wall. Now they were at separate points on the track, there are about 2 seconds a difference there, so what on earth happened?
Well, I think the only way you can explain that one there is the Twilight Zone. That was strange. Well, Gort's got wing damage, that's for sure.
I wonder if Sean's got damage as well, because we did see him off track. I think he had to try and avoid. What I think happened was the Gort's lost it. Yeah, the Gort's lost it. Up the curve there, which we've seen multiple times this race already, and I think Sean there was just trying to take evasive action and found himself onto the grass. So a little bit of a heart-stopping moment there for Sean. However, he's made it through and now up to 5th place. The Gort though down to 9th place. What that means though is that Hustwick moves now up to 6th place. Saunders, who picks up a 3-second time, up in 7th. Barry there in 8th on his return, now up the order there as Traw now makes his way past the Gort. The Gort, of course, has that front wing damage, so that's going to open up opportunities for drivers behind as well, with Maze and Lighty, maybe even Yuzi, depending on how quick the Gort can get back to the pit lane and how quick the Renault team can get that front wing changed. The lap 16 though, and things do not look good for the Gort then. He makes his way through the Casio triangle, and this looks like he'll have to come back to the pit lane, which isn't ideal considering, of course, we do have that rain forecasted, and as you can see, Andy, just up ahead, that rain is starting to form in the form of grey clouds over the circuit. I wonder how long it's going to be before we see it hit.
Yeah, I mean, when you do it the wide shot in turn 1 and 2, which by the way the yellow flag is Graham staying well out of the way through the first couple of turns, it does look an awful lot darker. It was very blue sky early doors, a lot of sunshine. It's now getting darker and darker, and it looks like the rain might be coming. For the Gort, that's probably the worst time you need to come into the pits for a change of wing, because if rain is going to come towards the end of this race, you'd want to try and stay out there as long as you can, surely, but these things do happen. Jack has gained a few tenths in amongst all the melee that we've been watching further down the field, but he's still 2 seconds behind on Recon at the moment, but you can see that Haas up ahead, and I've been wondering how long before he can catch up. Spike's 11, nearly 12 seconds down on the top 2, so we're only looking at either Recon or Jack to win this race here today, unless something major happens. Well, Ironics still 7 seconds back on his championship rival, and even with the 5-second penalty for Spike, at the moment he's still going to hold on to P3. So at the moment everyone's looking okay. Alan Kay into pit lane and back out on a set of soft compound tyres down in 14th as Ironics sweeps around the outside of him. Sean in 5th, Housewick in 6th, Saunders 7th, Barry in 8th, T-Row now 9th, and Maze up into 10th for Lighty 11th. Yuzi with fresh tyres in 12th, but he's 20 seconds down. The Gorts came back out in 13th, Alan Kay 14th, Charlie in 15th, and Graham in 16th. The Alan Kay, Charlie and Graham are all 1 lap down, which, considering that they were involved, 2 of the drivers were involved in the first lap incident at 130R, and Graham's had a few tangles, including one with his own teammate. It's not something of a surprise considering the unfortunate situations that those drivers have found them in today.
Now, Recon hasn't scored any points so far this season. He currently is leading this race and has the fastest lap of the race. Jack's in 2nd. Obviously, right now, he is 3rd place in the championship, 75 points. He can't win the championship from this position. The gap would be too big going into the final couple of rounds. Even if Jack finishes and Lyronics and Spike don't, he would be out of in championship contention. But the interesting thing is now, between Spike and Lyronics, of course, they are the 2 championship rivals, they are the 2 championship contenders. Spike currently ahead of Lyronics. As Saunders there makes a move on Huswick, which I'm pretty sure Andy wanted to interrupt me over, but I was just having none of it. As Huswick here makes his way now towards 130R. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a return leg here as we head towards the Casio triangle. Huswick there going to the left now, trying to go up the right hand side, but nothing doing. And Saunders there makes that move through the spoon curve.
Yeah, coming out of spoon curve, he's got a much better exit on the way out. Easy move done, and yeah, this is going to be a nice little battle between these two. Now the Renault's got the DRS obviously to try and gain back up. Going into turn number 1, has to back out of that. I thought he was going to chuck it in there. But yeah, that's the closest battle on the track at the moment. Everything else is kind of spread out a little bit with all the issues and spins and virtual safety cars, which we've had 2 of. The only other close battle on track is the Gort trying to recover, catching up to Yuzi right now. And I've got to say that the Yuzi's Toro Rossos looked more like one of Colin McRae's old rally cars at times when I've been watching them. Very sideways, very tail happy is that Toro Rosso here tonight, and it looks an awful handful indeed, which is, I'm sure, something I could say about an ex-girlfriend of mine, but we won't go there.
It has it all a string with Andy. You never know what you're going to come up with. You absolutely never know what you're going to come up with. The Gort then trying to close in on Yuzi. Yuzi here looks like he's just struggling for grip through the edge section, which can happen. The tyres start to go off. I mean, on those hard tyres as well, if you don't have quite enough downforce on either end, front or rear end, this can happen. The amount of understeer he's getting there is amazing, but the Gort here just losing a little bit of concentration onto the grass. He went there. That might have just cost him any good run he would have had coming towards the Decnas, but the Decna curves aren't really an overtaking place. I'll tell you where is an overtaking place. The hairpin, according to Kamui Kobayashi, that's for sure, when he was driving for a Sauber in those days. Would love to just chuck it up the inside, but more about our championship contenders, of course. So Spike currently ahead of Lyronics. It's 15 points scored for third place. It's 12 points scored for Lyronics in fourth place. So that means the gap, as it stands, would come down to 7 points with 2 races to go.
Yeah, it's definitely going to bring things a little bit closer with just 2 rounds left, and obviously the gap between first and second in terms of points is 7. So can you imagine if it finished like this here tonight and Spike won next week with Lyronics in second? We would have a tie for the championship going into the final round.
Hustwick in trouble at turn... Where is that? That's I think it's turn
the
4.
S's.
Yeah, turn 4. He's retired from the session, from the menu. So whatever's gone on there has not ended well for the Renault at all. And he was running really well up in 8th place, but it's all gone now as he retires the Renault out on track. Such a shame for him. I hope it wasn't a spin-off and just a retirement out of complete anger. I've been there before, but that is the Renault parked up and out of the Japanese Grand Prix. We have 8 laps to go, and the grey skies are coming closer. Recon leading though from Jack in second. Spike is currently running in third place. Lyronics in fourth. Sean is in fifth place with Saunders in sixth. Barry in 7th, Shaw in 8th, with Mays running in 9th place, and Lighty in 10th, the Gort in 11th, Yuzi in 12th, Alan Kay there currently 14th, but will move up positions, Charlie in 15th, and Graham running in 16th place. 8 laps to go here at Suzuka.
Yeah, it's a shame what's happened there for Housewick. He was running pretty well in the points, didn't catch anything. Just seeing, the car rolling along would make you think possible retirement from the menu, as you say, which doing it when you're still in the middle of the track or just off the track's not the greatest things. It can obviously cause problems. I have seen safety cars, virtual safety cars, caused by that kind of thing, but it's not caused any problems here, so we will not talk too much about it. It means we're down to 15 drivers left in the field. Recon's keeping a nice gap at the moment, roughly around about 2.4 seconds, been like that for the last few laps. Makes you think that, without trying to jinx the Dutchman, obviously, because that seems to be a pretty good jinx, as we know, he seems to have a bit of a comfortable standing on this at the moment, and he'll be hoping to take that all the way to the flag. Jack trying his best to keep up and catch back up as well. Spike's on his own. Lyronics has gained a little bit of time. It's down to 6 seconds nearly between the 2 championship protagonists, but that could make a difference later on. I'm going to check the points, the penalties out very shortly. Sean's in no man's land in 5th. He's 14 seconds off of 4th, nearly 8 seconds clear of 6th place, which is Saunders. He's got 5 odd seconds over Barry. T-Row's catching up to him despite the older tyres. 1.4 seconds between the Williams and the McLaren. It's 1990s all over again. Mays in 9th. He's got the attentions of Lighty, who's done 18 laps on those hard compound tyres. They're going to be a bit second hand at the moment, but that McLaren in comparison is looking pretty quick at the moment. That rounds out your top 10. I'm going to go have a look at the penalties.
Just to correct myself before we see Lighty, in fact I'm going to interrupt myself, correcting myself here as Lighty's right on the tail of Mays as we head towards the Casio triangle. Up the inside he goes. He'll have the inside for the next corner. Mays might have a better run down through turn 18 here. Can't quite make it stick. Who has the DRS? Neither of them. Neither of the cars have DRS then as they head now down towards turn 1. Just to interrupt myself then, to correct myself, Recon has actually scored points this season. He scored points at Austria, 5th place, Germany, 7th place, and Singapore, 7th place. For some reason I couldn't find him in the standings earlier on, but sorry Recon, you have scored points this season. What he hasn't done is achieved a podium this season. 5th place has been his best result so far. Hasn't had that podium yet. It always seems to elude him as he's talked to us in commentator's corner. Yellow flags out in sector 1, and that's Lighty in trouble at Dunlop. Dunlop's a corner that's just caught everybody out today.
Sorry, microphone was off. I was looking at the penalties. Yeah, it definitely has. It's a tricky corner at the best of times. You're swinging it to the, as I mentioned in the hot lap, you've got to swing it back to the right to get the best curving arc angle up the hill through the left. But if you just get it slightly wrong, I've done it myself, you just catch that inside curb on Dunlop, it will just unsettle the car like absolutely nothing else, and around you go. And I think that's about the 10th time I've seen a spin up there today. There's been that many. It's caught a lot of drivers out, as you say. Work my way through the penalties now. Lyronics doesn't have any. Spike's got that 5-second penalty for speeding in pit lane. Jack's got a 3-second penalty. So even if he catches up to Recon, he still needs to pull 3 seconds ahead if he wants to win the race. Sam's got 2 3-second penalties, Barry's got a 5-second penalty, Lighty and the Gort have got 1 each, and Lyronix has got 2 warnings though, so he's not too far off of maybe getting a penalty himself before the end of this race. Those are the ones that managed to get through at the moment, and those are the ones that are the most important ones because those are over the points paying positions.
So Recon still leading then, Lighty coming back to the pits with that front wing damage. And the rain has started to fall, and Lighty will be cursing inside that lid of his. 5 seconds stop-go penalty to serve first before the crew can work on the car. He's putting on a set of soft tyres. If he wants to get a good result, he has to commit to those tyres now. No coming in for him. So Recon here probably wanted just an easy race to get to the checkered flag, to win this race, to get a win on the board, to get a podium on the board. Now the rain's starting to fall. How long before the track gets greasy, and will we need to use those intermediate tyres, I wonder?
I think that unless it starts to really chuck it like a Scottish summer weather, I think they might just get away with it. It'll start to grease up for the last couple of laps, but I think most of the drivers now, with it being only lap 23, 27, there's only 3 or 4 laps to go. Unless it's really treacherous, I think most of them will try and stick it out towards the end of this race. Lighty's got... It's a shame he's down in 12th and 22 seconds back, because he'll have the freshest and now warmest tyres out there as well, having just put on a fresh set of boots, which would have worked very nicely in these conditions. But it's going to end up being pretty much all for nothing for the McLaren. But this throws a bit of a spanner in the works. It'll be interesting to see. I think the drivers will be okay, but they're going to have to be very, very careful, especially on some of those curbs, which have caught the drivers out already, even in the even in the dry. So the rain is just going to make it even more treacherous, and it'll be interesting to see, does anyone else come off before the end of this race.
It's not quite Spa 2008 yet. We had the battle between Hamilton and Raikkonen, and of course Raikkonen crashed the car towards the end. In fact, it was coming towards Radion. He accelerated on the curb just a little bit too much, pushed his luck a little bit too many times during that lap, and crashed the car and sent him out of the race. Hamilton went on to win the race, but it was applied a 30-second time penalty at the end of the race for cutting the bus stop chicane and gaining an advantage down towards turn 1, which then handed Felipe Massa the win in 2008. I remember that one because it lives so long in the memory. It was such a dramatic finish. All the drivers were thinking, well, how bad can the rain actually get? It got pretty bad, especially on those dry tyres. Even those groove tyres back then couldn't provide any grip in those slippery conditions.
No, definitely not. You're right, it was Radion. I thought it was Blanchimon. He'd done that the year before, so apologies there. It's getting mixed up with what years it was. Yeah, it's getting tricky. It's obviously the rain's now pretty obvious. There's a couple of sections of track where you can just see a little bit of spray coming off the back of the car, and I'll tell you who's looking not too bad at the moment is Jack. He seems to be a wee bit more confident in his car than Recon does. Yellow flag somewhere in sector 3. Disappeared already, and it was car up ahead of Recon. It was the Gort who must have went off at 130R because he was just recovering there ahead. We've got Charlie off to the side there, just out of the chicane as well, so it's another spin for the Alfa Romeo driver. He's had a few of them that I've spotted today. The Gort in the pit lane once again, and I imagine he might just try some intermediates, but yeah, he is. He's going for the intermediate tyres, so we'll see how that one works out for him. And Charlie's finally made his way back to pit lane with the damaged Alfa Romeo. He's down in 15th. We'll see if he carries on or if he decides to call it a day. So the Gort's gone for the intermediates. That's interesting. He's got 8.5 seconds to make up and 2.5 free laps now. Let's see what he can do.
Well, the rain is starting to get a little bit heavier out there. As Andy says, there is a little bit of spray from the car behind. Not too much though. As we head into the closing stages of this Japanese Grand Prix. Recon leads there. There is Jack in second place. Spike is in third with with Lyronix in fourth place. Yellow flags again in sector 1, but they've quickly been cleared. So that looks like, or probably was, just a car just getting out of the way of some of the lead lap cars. But Recon here, that gap is really pushing itself. But, well, Jack at the moment, as you see, he's got that yellow fuel indicator, which means he has not got enough fuel to get to the checkered flag. That means he's got to do some fuel saving, and I bet he's trying to wait for this rain period now so that, you know, obviously you use less fuel in the wet. So that's probably his thinking there. He'll use less fuel in these tricky conditions, therefore that's when he'll do his fuel saving.
Yeah, you'd imagine that will be the case. The yellow flag is Charlie, who has just left the session as well, so he's obviously had a disconnection. The car's just ghosting its way around at the moment. He just pitted for intermediate tyres as well, but I've been watching the gore on his intermediates. Lighty just flew up behind him and flew by him as if it was nothing. So it's not wet enough for intermediates, it's overheating them far, far too much, and it's just not the time, and it's just not going to be enough time in the race. It's slippy out there because Lighty has just locked up at the chicane and gone a bit deep into the corner, but it's too much. It's just not wet enough for the intermediates. They are just overheating, I would imagine. There's just not enough standing water to keep them cool just now. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see they're just carrying on the tyres they had, because although it's now getting really slippy, it's the amount of time you're going to lose in pit lane putting intermediates on for 1 or 2 laps, just not enough. It would need to be an absolute deluge to do that. And well, speaking of tricky conditions, Lighty's just put it in the wall going up the hill towards Dunlop on his soft compound tyres, so it is getting slippier, but there's just not enough laps left to make it worthwhile coming into pit lane. It's going to make the last lap very, very interesting. No, who's got the skills? Oh, Recon's just picked up a 3-second penalty, so that means him and Jack are now equal on penalties. That's an interesting one with a lap to go. It looks like if he can keep it going, it'll be okay, but they're starting to struggle out there. Who can keep their composure on this final lap? 3.6 miles to go when they cross the line. Can the Dutchman take his first victory along with his first podium?
Well, Recon will start the final lap of this race in the lead, and Lighty has retired from the race in 12th place there. It's been a tough race for him. There is Recon to start the final lap of the race. Keep an eye on Lyronix and Spike as well. Lyronix just dipped under that 5-second buffer, so Spike's got to be careful here not to pick up any more penalties and not to make any mistakes out there. However, Recon leading the way now, and DRS has been disabled on this final lap, which means it's pretty much the crossover point. The most treacherous lap you've ever seen for Recon here. He'll be hoping that he can keep all 4 tyres up to temperature. No need to go on the accelerator too hard there. But Jack, 2.6 seconds. He's fallen by slightly on this lap, and through the top of the hill there, got the back end out. Managed to keep it under control though. Recon making his way now through the second Degner curve, and underneath the bridge he'll go. You can see how carefully he's trying to take it now. Now that he knows the DRS has been made offline. Maze there up ahead, just looking to try and get out of the way.
Jack spun. He's spun out of Degner.
He has, and lost a huge chunk of front wing
as well.
So Recon
should be okay.
Here, yeah, well, Recon here, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. We may have just seen a Raikkonen there from Jack trying to chase down Recon and forgot about the conditions out of the second Degner. Recon here, you can see how much that's a relief to him. Look how much he's conserving right now. Went all the way up to 8th from 5th out of the spoon curve. He wants that traction. He wants as much grip as possible out there, and I think with a 14-second buffer to Jack right now, he will take it as easily as he possibly can as he makes his way now towards the Casio triangle. Recon here has only a couple more acceleration points to go before he gets the checkered flag, and Recon coming down the hill as slowly as he possibly can wins in Japan. What a drive from Recon, and well-deserved victory. At last, a win on the board for Recon. Jack, with that damaged front wing, will come down the hill. There is Spike actually just behind him. We're interested to see what that gap is as Jack crosses the line. He will finish in 2nd place. Spike then coming towards the line to take 3rd place, and he does. 5-second penalty added on. Lyronix heading towards the line, loses that back end. The gore goes through, and Lyronix finishes in 4th place, 1.4 seconds. I think that was lost there in the Casio triangle. Just lost that back end, can easily be done. But that is Spike in 3rd, Lyronix in 4th, and that means, of course, 3 points difference. The championship gap now comes down to 7 points. Lyronix is still the championship leader. Sean then making his way now through the Casio triangle, tiptoeing his way through and just trying to make it to the end. 5th place for Sean here. Consistent results all season, and today was absolutely no different for him. You can see how treacherous it is. It definitely is time for those intermediate tyres as Saunders makes his way down towards the start-finish line. His debut for TTL F1, and he crosses the line in 6th place right now, but he has got penalties. Let's see what Traw does. Yes, he will jump him on penalties, so Traw then up to 6th place he goes. And that just leaves Barry then, who is going to cross the line in 8th place to take his first points of the season in his return to TTL F1. That just leaves Alan Kay out there, who's running in 12th place. He's kept a level head, and he's finished ahead of Graham, who I know he's got a friendly rivalry with in here, so that would have been nice to see. But of course we had those 5 retirements. Lighty, Hustwick, Crazy Legs, Warren and George did not make it to the checkered flag. But one of the most treacherous laps that Recon has ever had to face in his career. You can see how happy he is in the chat alone. But Recon finally puts those burdens to bed and grabs his first race win here in Suzuka. And the track and the weather didn't exactly make it easy, but it's his first race win of the season for Recon.
Solid drive there from the Dutchman. Stuck it in pole position as well. Pretty much led the entirety of the race also, except during the pit stop phase. Didn't get flustered there under the wet conditions. It was his rival Drac who dropped it through the Degners and lost the wing on the final lap, just pushing a bit too hard, but he still finishes in a solid 2nd position. Lyronix missing out on the final podium despite Spike's 5-second penalty by 1.5 seconds. Just couldn't get the grip in the final couple of corners. And I just want to point out, I know I was saying, it shows you how quick things change. I was saying that the intermediates must have been overheating. In the last lap or so, the Gort has passed Uzi for the final point. The Gort done 2 laps at 1 minute 43 on the inters. Uzi was a 1 minute 50 and a 2 minute 8 on the final lap, so incredibly different. It just shows you how quick the crossover was. But there you go, Recon wins, Jack in 2nd, Spike taking 3rd, it's Lyronix in 4th with no penalties at all, so well done to him. Sean in 5th, T-Raw takes 6th position with Saunders in 7th, Oldman Barry in 8th, Mays in 9th and the Gort in 10th. Mays and T-Raw also getting the Andy Campbell no penalty award. Uzi in 11th, having lost out on that final point just at the end there. Alan Kane 12th, Graham in 13th, Charlie was not running at the end, it was a ghost car 14th, and the retirements Lighty, Liam Housewick, Crazy Legs, D Warden and Gypsy George. The retirements here this evening, and I think that Recon picked up the fastest lap of the race as well, so that's a grand slam for the Dutchman.
Absolutely, and they'll be very, very happy with that. 26 points scored for him, and of course those were your official, unofficial results here from the Japanese Grand Prix. And so we can tell you that the championship gap has been closed by Spike by 3 points. That means it's now 7 points between Lyronix and Spike as we head towards the final 2 rounds of the season. Andy, take your pick. 2-horse race, 2 races to go. Who are you backing?
Oh, don't do that to me, seriously. That's a tricky one, it really is. They're both very good drivers, they'll both be very deserving of being crowned champion. I don't want to pick, I just want to see a good clean fight between them to the end of the season, and for it to go, hopefully it goes to the last lap. That would be something to watch. If it went to the final lap of the race, that would be incredible. I did notice though from our championship leader in the chat, quote, "Some of these guys just can't race." He's not happy at someone.
Not happy at someone, but I guess we'll never know if he's not in the chat there in the lobby. But of course, Andy, you're back on a Thursday. It can really only mean one thing.
Yes, it's time to say goodbye and go away to work next. No, I'm kidding. It can only mean Commentator's Corner, of course. However, before we finish this stream, I've said it privately, I've said it in the chats that we have. A big thank you to James once again for filling in over the last couple of weeks. He's been doing quite a lot recently on TTTV. He's been helping out here, he's been doing TTFL, filling in for Malco on occasions, and of course he's now co-commentating TTL F2 with yourself, along with the Project Cars League. So he's doing plenty on here, and once again, just want to say thank you to him for making sure that you've got company on a Thursday night when I have to work.
Absolutely. Well, James, I think he's earned a well-earned break right now, but I'm sure he'll be in the commentary box very, very soon. If you're new, of course, to TTL F1, we are having Commentators Corner. All you have to do as a driver is stay in the lobby after the race. It really is as simple as that. Of course, it will be a separate stream, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell so you're notified when we go live in a couple of minutes time for Commentators Corner. You can also follow the league on Twitter at TTL_F1. You can follow me whilst you're there as well. It's at KSMCGF1, and you can follow Andy whilst you're there as well.
Yes, you can indeed. It is Andy81287, and if you can't understand that because of the Scottish accent, look at the screen. It's the exact same as what you see there.
Look how perfect he makes it. It's just great. It's stream worthy. Oh, we just did a stream, Andy. It's great. Anyway, what are the odds? Anyway, Commentators Corner is coming up on the channel. Don't go away.